JKD hot topic, as evidenced by the intense discussions which followed on after I posted the broadcast announcement postcard. And of course, as is typical, the discussions were replete with people who knew what they were talking about, people who didn't know what they were talking about, and people who really shouldn't get themselves involved in matters concerning Bruce Lee. Let's jump into it. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods. 2 hours late, camera issues. Welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast number 170. This is the one about the Jeet Kune grappling issue. If as you're logging in, be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button, and feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast. If you're catching the simulcast over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell over there. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, consider making a purchase over at Rebel Gear, jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you'll see stuff like this, the 4 tenets of Jeet Kune, t-shirt, long sleeve, short sleeve, hoodie, sweatshirt, coffee mug, and all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast. All right. So I have to tell you, it's quite entertaining to watch people get themselves all twisted into knots over this Jeet Kune grappling issue. Nowhere else do I see as inordinate an amount of like psychological projection as I do when it comes to certain aspects of Jeet Kune. And I was almost at a loss where to start in this discussion, because there are several subtopics, let's say, within the main issue. So let's do this first. Let's ask the rhetorical question. Is grappling a part of Jeet Kune? If you subscribe religiously to the idea that JKD comes only from Wing Chun, boxing, and fencing, then grappling might not be a part of Jeet Kune for you, because there's no high-level grappling in those arts, right? Therefore, somebody with great zeal in that regard might consider any grappling that they come across. If you see Bruce Lee do grappling in movies or in demonstrations, then it must just be part of his entertainment choreography, let's call it. So then you got to ask yourself, what about his notes in the Tao? Were those only for demonstration? Were those only for movie choreography as well? So as I've mentioned many times before, there's a multi-page section on grappling in the Tao of Jeet Kune, as well as, so let me show you what I mean. So there's this kind of stuff, right? And then there's also, do I have it here? Yeah. Let me show you this. Then there's also this. And I have some like-minded JKD colleagues out there, because Dax Manuel, fellow Miamian, Dax actually put this up into the, and I had intended to show it as well, because when you look here in the section 8, it talks about strong in fighting, the shifty blasting, throwing, grappling, and immobilizations. So we know, we have the evidence, right, that there's, in Bruce Lee's notes, at least, there was stuff about grappling. Now, the idea about, you know what it is, right? Unfortunately, there are almost as abundant non-facts about Bruce Lee and grappling that dominate the conversation as there might be facts that do show up in the conversation. So for example, here's another, do I have this one? No, I don't. Oh man, I messed that one up. So, but I'm sure everybody's seen the picture of Bruce Lee in a judo gi with a black belt, right? And unless you were to do some kind of inquiry into it, I know people who've come away with the conclusion that Bruce Lee was a black belt, a dan holder in judo. And not only was he a black belt in judo, he was probably a first degree black belt in, I swear to you, right? This is what I've heard. He was a first degree black belt in Seattle and then got promoted to second degree in Oakland through Wally J. So by the time he got to LA with Hayward Nishioka and Jean LaBelle, he was probably approaching third degree black belt or what have you. All of that based on a simple photograph that you may have seen somewhere online. When the truth is that he was lent a black belt to pose for pictures, and that sometimes, according to the Seattle group, when he would assist Sato Sensei, Fred Sato, in Seattle, when he would assist him with the kids, he'd wear a belt that instructors should wear. So I mostly advise people that if you weren't there, you should try to not speak authoritatively on a topic. Now, if you happen to have received verified information, whether it's second or third hand, that's a different thing. I'm fortunate in that I'm close to people who were either there or they know the people who were there. But even then, it's still reported speech. And again, I've been around long enough to know that some of the old timers, they embellish the truth a little bit, sometimes for dramatic effect. You know, so like the idea that there are 32 grappling techniques which were added to the JKD curriculum. Now, whether they were added by Bruce Lee during Bruce Lee's lifetime, or if they were added to the curriculum after Bruce Lee had passed away, and then the idea that Larry Hartzell was put in charge of the development of JKD grappling. As with many things, there might be a kernel of truth, but it's definitely not the entire like tree of truth, right? There's just like a little nugget of truth in some of that stuff. Because there is, again, for example, there is no doubt that Larry Hartzell was the premier grappling authority in the heyday of like the seminar circuit. But there's not a need to start creating origin stories about how that came to be. We can simply accept it for what it was. Likewise, to draw conclusions from what you see on the pages of the Tao and to create complete scenarios about what Bruce Lee was into when it came to grappling, and that he was only interested in the deadliest techniques and what have you, right? Come on, man. But there can be no doubt that Bruce Lee practiced grappling techniques, even if just to look smooth, right, on camera. There's no doubt that he practiced. I put together a little sequence here, and hopefully it will show real well, right? It's just a short thing. So here's the ridiculous leg sweep with Chuck Norris, right? Which is repeated in Enter the Dragon. And then that variation, right? And then that variation, okay? Then this, okay? Throwing and what have you. And then this, to me, is an ultimate demonstration. What I like about this is that Bruce Lee shows a lot of counter grappling to this. And then he shows, to me, it's like the idea of how to get back up, how to not stay on the ground, right? Go to the ground, but then get yourself back up off the ground. And I think that's really illustrative, I think, of his approach to the grappling, right? Okay, so here's what I would say, right? So watch that sequence again, right? When I put up the final edit video and what have you, and see if you agree with me. You know, Bruce Lee said a lot of things. He wrote a lot of things, and to me, one important guideline is that Bruce Lee always talked about totality. And perhaps in past decades, people were not as exposed to grappling and ground fighting as they are today. And maybe in past years, you could defend yourself successfully without ever having to go to the ground, without ever having to be even concerned about going to the ground. But there's no denying that times have changed, and we have to have the confidence to adapt our Jeet Kune to serve the current times. And here's the thing, Bruce Lee can still be your guide in that quest to adapt. After all, like we said already, it's in his notes. It's even in the self-defense portion of the Bruce Lee's Fighting Method book. So again, I say, evidently, he must have been thinking about it. And it brings me to this thought, right, in closing. I don't want to call it a drawback, but it is definitely a stumbling block for some people in JKD. And here's what it is. Jeet Kune is really only for adult-minded people. It's for people who can avoid the childishness of having to be right all the time. People who are open-minded and open-hearted enough to let others have their own beliefs and to make choices, to be able to have a discussion with someone who doesn't necessarily see things exactly the way you do. But I do have to say this, I am encouraged by what I see online. There seems to be, even if it is a small movement, there seems to be a movement towards more tolerance in JKD between people who might approach it from different directions. Okay, so what say you? Do you think that grappling firmly belongs in the totality of the JKD approach? Or do you think that since Bruce Lee never said that JKD was Wing Chun, boxing, fencing, and grappling, then it can't be a part of his art? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's all I gotta say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. Coming up on Friday, March 5th, Jeet Kune Dialogues episode postponed from earlier with Stanley Brooks. Stan's going to talk to us older guys about universal energy. So that's on Friday, March 5th at 6 p.m. Today, you can tell from the time already, is a red day. There you go. All right, so I'll see some of you on Friday at 6 for the Jeet Kune Dialogues. The rest of you, I will see. Oh, I got to show you something. So a couple of weekends ago, I did a workshop for my good friend from many years ago, Sean Kelly, who is Master Sean Kelly, who's part of Ed Parker's Kempo Karate system. And in addition to a fee, Sean also, let me show you this, right? I have nowhere to put this, right? It's so huge. But Sean gifted me this thing, right? And then also, in addition to that, here's what I got, right? So there's Bruce Lee, the man I already knew. There's the Alex Ben Block one. There's Best of Bruce Lee by Black Belt Magazine, Part 1, Part 2. This is a British publication. This one, I know the cover, but I don't own this. All that other stuff, except for the Green Hornet thing, I don't have any of that stuff. So now I feel like Richard Torres, right? This one I never owned. I recognized it. This one I do own, but my copy is not as pristine as this thing. Look at this, right? And then this one I also own, but some of this stuff is actually in storage. because they used to be on the they used to be on the shelves in my office at the big school, but since I don't have the school anymore, they're in storage. But now I have these at hand right here. So I want to publicly say thank you to Sean Kelly, and I hope that I've started a trend where you do a seminar or a workshop for somebody, and they pay you a fee, but then they also give you some cool Bruce Lee memorabilia, right? That should be the new trend. So if anybody wants to partially pay you with Bruce Lee stuff, don't say no to it. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry about the mishap. I'll see you on Friday, or some of you I'll see next Wednesday for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Talk soon.